everyone. This is Matt and Jennifer Lucas with the franchising company, back for another Zor Zoom interview. Today we're going to be speaking with Jason from Mosquito Squad.
Mosquito Squad Plus.
Oh, Mosquito Squad Plus. I stand corrected.
A quick rundown about Mosquito Squad. So first of all, big important part is they're a part of the Authority brands, and Jason will go through that in more detail. No brick and mortar is necessary. It's a fast startup. You can be up and running within 30 to 60 days. Very predictable recurring revenue streams, and also no royalties at all for the first year, which is
That's
huge.
unheard of.
But anyway, Jason, how about you introduce yourself and give us a little synopsis on Mosquito Squad Plus?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for the introduction. So I've been in franchising for about 15 years. My name's Jason Henshaw. I currently have been a franchise development manager at Authority Brands for about 2 years now. And so I have the distinction of being the only person in my seat that represents two brands, right? Monster Tree is the other one. But we're here to talk about Mosquito Squad today. And so Mosquito Squad has also the distinction of being the first to space. So there's been, I don't know, there's probably 10 or more franchises that do mosquito control, but we invented it. And so why is that important, right? Well, the main thing is experience, right? We've been doing it the longest, so we've learned the most in the space. We can pass that along to our customers and our franchisees. And then also, as you mentioned, over time, we've been doing it for so long, we adapt and evolve. We become today a full service pest control business. And that's why we added the plus on the end, right? To note that we're more than just mosquitoes.
It's going to take some time getting used to.
Yeah, it is. And so I'm still wearing the old shirt as of last month. I got new ones coming, but the conference is coming up for the owners at the end of this month. And I'm excited to go because I always get amped when I leave that thing because they have really good culture at Mosquito Squad. Last time I went last year for the owners conference, they had 95% turnout. So that's a big deal because it's not mandatory, right? This is optional for them to attend every year, and they're going on their own dime, right? They're paying for their hotel room and their food and everything else to get there. And beyond that, half of those owners brought their managers and paid for them to come too, because they love the culture of the brand. They love being a part of it. They love getting together, that annual owners conference. And so I like I said, I get a boost coming from it because it just excites me to kind of get that kind of vibe of how they love the brand so much, and I can kind of pass that energy along to future candidates.
So let's dive into, what is Mosquito Squad? What services do you provide, and then what have you added with the plus?
Yeah, so we originally started out with just mosquitoes, right? That's kind of why we have the name and what built this brand. But as we know, the mosquito has some seasonality, right? They go away in certain parts of the year and then they come back, and so that's kind of an issue for some owners because they're losing revenue, or at least it's dipping pretty dramatically in the winter months. So this alleviates that issue. We're able to, in most markets, allowed to operate year round because when it gets cooler out, where do the pests go, right? They go into the home. So we're able to treat the home during those colder months, and it allows us to be able to kind of be a one-stop shop for those customers, right? They don't have to have multiple vendors to kind of treat all of their pest control needs. So that's been a big boost in the arm for the brand. But as you know, with franchising, when you roll out a new product or service, it's not just like flipping a switch, right? There's training that comes along with it, licensing in our case, right, for particular pests. So we had to make sure we got all that rolled out across our entire system. So we've been doing it for a few years now, through some locations had it, some didn't, but now we're fully integrated across the entire system, which made us comfortable with launching into the plus model.
Exciting.
Well, as you know, Matt and I are huge fans of these home service options. The one of the main reasons is because it's recurring revenue. It's very, very predictable. So can you talk to a little about that, especially for the the colder states?
Yeah, so typically, like I said, in the colder states, the further north you go, the shorter the season would get, right? And believe it or not, this is a fact, and it's in our FTD. The revenue across our system doesn't change much for the year based on region. So what I mean by that is these more northern climates, they're making just as much money throughout the year as the southern climates, because I, for one, I live in the South. I live in South Florida. We're pretty much a 12-month market down here. It doesn't stop. There's no time of year we can't go outside, right? But we take it for granted, right? Like I can go out, I can go to the beaches 5 minutes away. I never go, right? So it's like when you have those things available, or somebody has a swimming pool, they get it, they love it for the first 6 months, and then they just basically pay for it to be maintained, right? So same thing, right? These more northern climates are opposite though. They know that they have a limited window of opportunity to be outside. So they're ready and available to pay for services, whether it's us or any other outdoor needs, because they want to enjoy that outdoor space without the issues with pests or whatever other things might arise. So there's some ancillary effects though that I like to mention that happen by way of a recurring revenue business. Two big ones. One is referrals. You get to know that customer, you get to know them. You're on that property every single month. You're going to create a relationship. And if you're doing great service and they like what's being done there, they're going to tell their friends or family about you. It happens all the time. And as we know, referrals, they're free. It costs $0 in marketing. And number two, they close at like a 99% rate. Because I don't know about you, but if I have a thing I need done at my house and I ask my friend or family member for who they use, I'm not looking at anybody else. I'm going to hire them right on the spot. So that happens to us a lot. And another thing is, all of our vehicles are wrapped from head to toe with our logo, right? If you've seen it, it's bright, it's green, it's got a guy on the side with a backpack blower, not easy to miss. And so it's a mobile billboard. It's parked out front every single month. Pests are not selective. If they're in one yard, they're probably in all the yards, right? So chances are they need your service. So we get a lot of revenue, a lot of free marketing just by being on that property every month. But there's another line of service that I like to mention that maybe you haven't heard of, and that's our misting system. So what is that? Well, this is for the customer that's like, hey, I don't want some guy walking through my property every single month. Maybe it's for privacy or whatever reason. And so these are set it and forget it system. They pay a lump sum payment to buy all the equipment up front. Technicians go and set it up on the property, and it sprays periodically for whatever pest. So you have to come back like every 3 months to replace chemical, but it's an option for that customer. It's a minority of our revenue, but the idea is that we don't want to miss any opportunity, no matter what it is.
Yeah. Well, we haven't really touched on being a part of the authority brands and the relationships, the discounts, the support that offers. Do you want to touch on that just a little bit? It's a big part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the thing that comes along with authority brands, kind of the biggest item I would think, is economy of scale, right? So we're creating these relationships with vendors, bulk vending agreements. They're going to enable us to get the best pricing on chemicals and things that you may not be thinking about, like just day-to-day business operational things like insurance and payroll services and things like that. So you're going to have access to that and get the best price from our collective bargaining with these vendors. That's going to ensure that you have an advantage over your competitors, because it's going to cut down on your cost and create more EBITDA or more bottom line for your business.
So can you talk to us a little bit about the initial investment, what that looks like?
Yeah, so it's low on the low side compared to the average. I think the average franchise is around 300K today. Ours starts at 180 and goes to around 200. So lower investment side. A big part of that, half of it, in fact, is working capital. So this is unique with our brand. One thing that's unique is the no royalties for the first year. But another thing that we do, I think is important to note, is the fact that we take in consideration that year one is very tough with any business. No matter what you're operating, you've got debt service, right? That you have loans you got to pay back. You've got competition, market share that you need to garner. So we want to help with that. We can't control your fuel costs. We can't control what you pay your employees, but what we do control is the royalty. So we cut down on that cost to make sure that more goes to the bottom line. In addition to that, we want to make sure in that year one that you have the money aside to kind of cover expenses while you're ramping and growing. And most franchisors typically, and you guys have been in business for a long time, usually put back 3 months of working capital. And that's not really realistic for any business because you're going to run through that pretty quickly, and then you're kind of more money is going to come out of your pocket. So we want you over prepared. So we put in 4x that, a full year worth of working capital, to make sure that in advance you have this money in the bank put aside, cash reserve, to use for ramping. Maybe you're growing quickly. You need to add that next truck or that next employee. More marketing. Maybe what you're doing is working, but you want to kind of take it to the next level. So these are things that we do to kind of create more success for our owners, and we have a really strong success rate across our system compared to most franchisors. If you see in our item 20, really high performance and really great retention for our franchisees.
Been around franchising a long time, over 18 years myself as well. And I can say that I don't think in all that time I've ever heard of a brand suspend royalties for the entire first year. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, it's for that reason, right? Let's face it, right? We just talked about earlier, there's like 10 brands and just franchising alone that are doing this, right? So we know at the local level, right, non-franchise and franchise, there's going to be competition. So we want to give you that leg up.
Oh, I love that. And from a lead generation standpoint, talking, for the individual franchisee, how do they go about getting these accounts?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So another thing that we do that's unique is we handle all of lead generation and marketing on their behalf, right? We're going to allocate those dollars for marketing in the appropriate place. We've been doing this for a long time, for 20 years. And so one thing that's what I mean that's unique about that, because a lot of franchisors help, but we've identified a hand-selected group of national vendors that kind of meet your every need. And most franchisors, and I've been in this business for a long time too, they usually will go, hey, this is our guy for digital. This is our guy for print. And that's it. Like, you got two guys you're going to work with. Well, we have multiple vendors that do the same thing. We have 5 or 6 just direct mail piece vendors. We have 6 or 7 digital marketers, right, that you have access to, because we know that in certain regions of the country, some things just work better. So we've identified those vendors. We're going to pair up our owners with those particular vendors and make sure that they're spending those monies appropriately and getting the most bang for the buck. Because at the end of the day, to be hyper productive about it, that digital marketing is to get the phone to ring, right? We got to spend those marketing dollars to get the phone to ring. So we track all that. Our item 19 is very thorough. If you ever look at it, it talks about cost per lead, cost per sale, close ratio, and we do pretty good compared to the national pest control industry because of those decisions that we're making on the front end to make sure that we're not wasting marketing dollars.
No, love that.
And something that we haven't talked about is you guys have a pretty crazy good exclusive partnership with, what is it? Malaria No More?
Yeah, so that's kind of our giving back, or what do they call it, CSA, corporate social, or CSR, corporate social responsibility. So we participate with this charity group to donate money to help with third world countries and dealing with malaria.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Well, is there
So, well, yeah. So, another important piece, what are you looking for in an owner?
Oh.
What is their role? Are you looking
Yeah.
for full-time active, passive, semi-passive, and any certain types of background that you're searching for?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, with the investment opportunity, it's a wide funnel of people that can afford this. So, that's usually not the issue. What we're usually looking for is someone, we satisfy both owner operator and semi-absentee, but obviously what we prefer, and most franchisors prefer, is the owner operator, right? Because they're actively involved in their business. Semi-absentee is great, but if you had to pick one, that's the one we want. And so we want someone that's going to be actively involved in their business, and they're going to do all the things that any good franchisee would, any franchisor would want any good franchisee to do, which is follow the model, right? Follow the process, stay involved in their business. There's franchising is a microcosm of society, right? There's people that are lazy, there's people that hustle, and there's people that are just average, right? So we want people that are going to have that motivation and drive to grow their business. And then the last piece, pay attention to your numbers, right? Know that, we're not going to make decisions based on feeling or gut, right? It's going to be based on data. And so we're a very data-driven company. We spend a lot of money on that tracking for the business, for KPIs and et cetera. And so pay attention to that stuff. A part of what we do to ensure success on this side is that we have what's called support partners or business advisors. And these are our existing owners that have a track record of success. So it's really quite simple philosophy. We think who better to give advice to our new guys than our old guys that have a track record of success. So they're going to be along the way. Every single month they meet and look at their KPIs and their P&L data to kind of see where they're performing, where they're tracking, to try to ensure that they're hitting those milestones and tracking where they need to be, because we know from month 1 to maturity where they're supposed to be. So as long as they're that type of person, this is the ideal franchisee, right? We can't always tick every box, but those are the things that we're looking for. And then the last thing I would add is like expect to be outside in the elements for at least the first 30 days because you got to learn the business, right? You got to physically get out there and learn how to use the tools and the chemicals and et cetera, because at some point you're going to hand it over to your technician and you got to be able to communicate to them and know what you're talking about. So expect to do that for at least the first month.
And then let's talk about licensing as well, especially since you're bringing on pest control.
Yep.
You know, you need licensing on the mosquito side and the pest control. Are they separate licenses?
Yeah. So yeah, it really depends. The short answer is it depends, right? Every state and municipality, even at the city level, they have their own regulations and et cetera. And the beauty of that for us is we've been around for a long time. We're basically in every state. So we've encountered every state regulation you could possibly think of. And so we're going to guide and hold the hand of every one of our owners to make sure that they're getting all the things they need to get up and running. Some states require, and it's very few, require that you have years of experience in the space. Well, if you're a new owner, you never came from this space, you're not going to have that, right? So we're going to help you find qualified individuals that hold that license, and you basically rent that license, just as a simple term, till you get to that time in the business, right? You put those years in, and you can qualify to get your own. That's probably the most common way. And again, this is not our first rodeo. We help all of our owners get those things that they need to get up and running because they're not open. Right? We're not collecting royalties and we're not able to grow our system. So it's in our best interest to put all that effort in and we track it, right? We don't make sure they don't forget, hey, your time's coming up to take your test or et cetera, to make sure that they're doing all the things they need to do to get fully licensed.
And then I guess the other thing that we may have talked about and I just missed, but is brick and mortar required?
No. So that's a big cost savings. This is a home service business, and you also run it from the home remotely. As long as you have access to our software, ServiceMinder, that powers our CRM, it's cloud-based. You can use it from basically anywhere in the world as long as you have access to internet. Obviously, if you're an owner-operator, right, you're going to be full-time in the business. And basically what our owner-operators are doing at a high level is, day-to-day, back office administration. So hiring, firing, ordering equipment, dealing with vendors, customers, marketing, sales, et cetera. The technicians are out there doing the physical work on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, no, at first, you can do it from home, but eventually you're going to have that good problem that you've scaled and you've added 3, 4, 5 trucks and 4 or 5 employees. You'll need what's called like a mixed use space, which is like half office and half storage for your chemical and your trucks. But that doesn't come until at least year 2 when you start adding that 3rd truck.
Perfect.
And then my last question is, what are you targeting? What areas?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So again, I've been in franchising for as long as I have. I've kind of identified 3 things that are important for any franchisor. So one is you want to make sure that the population density is there, right? That what we don't want is the truck driving an hour between jobs, just too rural, too far apart. So we want as closely packed, dense population as possible. Second thing, income. We want to make sure that disposable income is there so that people can afford services, right? So economic stability is super important. And then the last piece I would look for is our target audience, which for us is residential homes, right? That's majority of what we're doing is the suburbs, right? So we want to make sure that we have as many single family homes in that particular territory as possible. The rest is pests, which you're not going to have a problem with pests in any part of the country.
Now, talking about single family homes, how many homes are you looking for in a single territory?
Yeah, single territories usually get a range anywhere from 100 to 150,000 single family homes.
Okay.
All right. Well,
is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like anybody to know?
Yeah. So when you kind of just hit on territory a little bit, and the fact that our territories are huge, they're 350 to 500,000 people. So they're gigantic. We give a lot of territory away every time we bring a new owner on because, again, we were invested heavily into their success. We want to create as much opportunity for them and their business. And so what comes along with that is higher performance. So if we look at the item 19, what we see on average for our territories is about $500,000 per territory. And most of our owners have at least 2. And they're bringing down strong EBITDA numbers with that because, again, The cost is not high to operate. This is a guy in a truck and some chemical, no office or any of that stuff to deal with. So we're seeing around 25 to 30% EBITDA on average.
Oh,
So
wow.
really strong performance in this business because there's not a lot of overhead, and we're giving away a lot of territory to ensure that happens. So when compared to the next pest control company, I can guarantee that, you know, our bottom quartile is probably as much as their top.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to tell you, even within the home services industry, to have 25 to 30% EBITDA margins, that's strong.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right. So for those of you watching, if you are interested in learning more about Mosquito Squad Plus, there is a link below. Feel free to click on it. We will check to see if your market is available and then talk through next steps with Jason. So
Awesome.
Jason, thanks so much for
Thank
the
you.
time here and
Yeah.
sharing information on Mosquito Squad Plus.
Fantastic. Thanks for remembering. Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
We'll talk to you soon.
Mm.